In the months leading up to the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, the digital public square has already erupted into a frenzy of debate and dissection. Trailers circulate in endless loops across platforms, each frame dissected for clues about tone, density, and cultural stance, though no gameplay trailer has even been released yet. Others detect, beneath the surface gloss, the faint but persistent outlines of an institutional arrangement that has grown steadily more elaborate since the last numbered entry in the series. What sets this moment of anticipation apart is not merely its scale, though that scale is without precedent in entertainment history, but the way excitement and apprehension have become structurally intertwined. The question that surfaces again and again is not simply whether the experience will be compelling, but whether its success, should it arrive on the scale everyone expects, will endorse a set of commercial and creative conditions that the rest of the industry has been moving toward for years. The most disturbing thing about GTA 6 is not that it might fail. It is that it may be too big to fail. The first signs are not hidden. They are right there in the business model. The games industry at its greediest, ugliest, and most anti-consumer. The price goes up to $80 for the standard edition. The expensive edition locks not only cosmetics, but actual in-game shops, locations, and side missions behind a $100 paywall. The physical box contains no disc at all, just a worthless code that strips you of any real ownership. The pre-order bonus funnels you straight into a subscription. The PC version is delayed, creating the same old double-dip cycle, where some players buy on console first and then buy again later on PC. None of these moves are new. Smaller publishers have tested them for years. But when the biggest game in the world deploys them at this scale, the meaning changes. If GTA 6 can launch with higher prices, paid tiers, weaker ownership, subscription hooks, and a delayed PC release, and still become the largest entertainment product on the planet, then every other publisher receives the same lesson. Players will complain, then they will pay anyway. That is why this is not merely a pricing story, or a physical media story, or a GTA Plus story, or a PC delay story. It is a test of how much control the single largest brand in gaming can now normalize without losing its audience. These commercial questions do not stand apart from the deeper cultural anxieties that have surrounded the first glimpses of the game's protagonists. Setting aside the pricing and ownership debates for a moment, a loud and growing player concern has emerged around the cultural direction of the series itself. To understand why this matters, it is necessary to return to what made Grand Theft Auto culturally powerful in the first place. The series was never built on performative virtue or top-down cultural engineering. It operated by granting its characters total moral and satirical agency, letting them navigate, exploit, and expose a rotten world whose every institution was already compromised. Gamers have always celebrated authentic female protagonists when they feel organic and respectful. Think the unapologetic power fantasy of Stellar Blade, but they instantly smell the difference when a character is designed to function as performative virtue signaling. The new unease is not that a female or Latina protagonist appears. The unease is whether she, and the broader world around her, will be allowed the same raw ethical ambiguity, ruthless self-interest, and narrative consequence that previous protagonists enjoyed, or whether contemporary institutional pressures and woke supervision will turn her into a protected vessel for approved themes. The same uncertainty hangs over Jason and the entire satirical environment. Old Grand Theft Auto built its comedy on a principle of near-total irreverence. Every class, every ideology, every public performance of virtue, and every institution was fair game for laceration. The radio stations, pedestrian dialogue, mission structures, and incidental world-building all served one unified project of cultural diagnosis, exposing a rotten society without exempting anyone from scrutiny, whether the joke was punching up or punching down. So if GTA 6 suddenly begins exempting certain modern beliefs, identities, and values from that same cruelty, then this is not merely vague, institutional capture. It is the naked supervision of content. A brute force, top-down, woke redesign that treats culture the way a Marxist command economy treated wealth, redistributing representation through 21st century oppressor-oppressed categories of race, gender, and sexuality, while declaring certain identities sacred cows, protected, elevated, and insulated from the mockery GTA once aimed at everyone else. That is what selective satire does. It stays sharp against safe targets, while becoming careful around protected modern pieties. It may still be funny, it may still be vulgar, it may still be technically impressive, but it carries a different charge. The fear with GTA 6 is not that it will contain modern culture. Of course it will. The fear is that modern culture will become the one thing Rockstar is no longer allowed to mock. That is why the distinction matters so deeply. The older games did not invite the player into a heroic fantasy of redemption or self-improvement. They offered something rarer: permission to inhabit a simulated society whose moral architecture was already in advanced decay. The police were not merely corruptible, they were routinely corrupt. The media were not merely sensational, they were structurally dishonest. The politicians, the corporations, the self-help industry, the activist class, the criminal underworld, and the ordinary citizenry all participated in a single ecosystem of hypocrisy, whose contradictions were available for exploitation. The player was not positioned as an external agent of correction. The player was invited to become one more expression of the same disorder. And the game's comedy arose from the recognition that this condition was universal rather than exceptional. Nothing was held sacred, because the world on display had already abandoned any coherent claim to sacredness. That refusal of exemption produced a peculiar vitality. The environment felt alive, not because it was morally admirable, but because it was permitted to be comprehensively, consistently, and sometimes beautifully dysfunctional. The violence, the vulgarity, and the chaos were never the entire point. They were the visible surface of a deeper satirical proposition that every center of authority was already compromised, and therefore available for ridicule. That proposition was sustainable only so long as the studio producing the work retained a structural position from which it could absorb the consequences of giving offense. Success altered that position. What began as a provocative outsider project became, over successive releases and corporate integrations, a central pillar of a global entertainment economy. With that elevation came the characteristic reflexes of any large institution: risk modeling, legal and public relations review, platform relationship management, shareholder expectations, brand valuation calculations, and the slow professionalization of every creative decision that might affect ancillary revenue or long-term franchise stability. The game that once sold chaos must now manage the production and reception of chaos. The game that once concluded its narrative arc and released the player back into the world must now consider live service extensions, retention metrics, and cross-title integration. The game that once treated a disc sale as the terminal commercial event must now contemplate subscription funnels, premium segmentation, and account-linked ecosystems whose value depends upon continued player presence rather than completed ownership. These are not aesthetic choices. They are structural transformations in the relationship between the work and its audience. Inside the fiction, the player is still offered the fantasy of lawlessness. Outside the fiction, the same player is asked to accept a series of contractual and behavioral constraints that would have been unrecognizable to the audience of earlier entries. Remember how the old games sparked furious House of Lords debates and nationwide moral panics? Imagine Rockstar daring to do anything remotely that edgy in 2026. The institutional blowback would be swift, brutal, and career-ending. The result is not necessarily overt censorship, but a more diffuse climate of calculation, in which certain targets carry higher anticipated costs than others. Comedy that reliably mocks modern influencer culture, Florida excess, or criminal self-delusion may proceed with relative institutional comfort. Comedy that turns the same unsentimental gaze upon corporate virtue signaling, activist language, identity performance as social currency, or the bureaucratic management of culture itself, encounters a different set of internal and external frictions. This tension between the fantasy the game extends and the conditions under which it is produced is not unique to Rockstar, though it finds its clearest expression there. Across much of Western AAA development, one observes a parallel pattern. Budgets have expanded to the point where risk aversion becomes a structural necessity rather than a creative preference. Live service requirements and platform strategies fragment what was once a discrete artistic object into a managed environment optimized for retention and monetization. Character writing and narrative architecture are increasingly shaped by focus testing regimes and sensitivity protocols, whose cumulative effect is to reduce the probability of uncontrolled offense. None of these developments is the result of a single conspiracy. Each is a rational response to the incentives created by scale, shareholder expectations, and platform power. Their cumulative consequence, however, is a progressive separation between the resources required to build large, technically impressive worlds and the institutional permission required to make those worlds feel dangerous, surprising, or genuinely diagnostic of the culture that produced them. It is this separation that has driven portions of the audience toward Asian-developed titles and independent productions. The attraction is not that every such game is formally or thematically superior. Many are not. The attraction is that a meaningful number of them continue to operate under conditions in which formal ambition, tonal extremity, and thematic directness remain commercially and culturally viable. A game may be permitted to be excessive in its violence, its eroticism, its political incorrectness, or its emotional sincerity, without first demonstrating that every element has been cleared by committees concerned with brand safety and global marketability. Western AAA retains unmatched capacity for simulation, performance capture, and audio-visual density. What it has increasingly ceded is the structural freedom to be spiritually unruly. When even the franchise most historically associated with that unruliness must negotiate the same institutional environment, the pattern becomes difficult to dismiss as the idiosyncrasy of any single studio. But of course, none of this constitutes a prediction that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be a failure on its own terms. The technical and production resources arrayed behind it are without parallel, and the likelihood that the finished work will be, at minimum, an astonishing technical and atmospheric achievement is high. The city may feel more alive, the systems more responsive, the performances more textured, and the sheer density of incidental life more impressive than anything the series has previously delivered. Those accomplishments would be real. They would also be insufficient to resolve the deeper question the release poses. A technically extraordinary game, produced under conditions of maximal institutional management, can still succeed commercially while ratifying every incentive that has made contemporary AAA feel increasingly managed rather than authored. Players may object to the price structure, the ownership model, the subscription layer, and the platform sequencing. The historical evidence suggests they will nevertheless participate in suggestive numbers to render those objections commercially inconsequential. When the largest entertainment property in the medium demonstrates that such participation is reliable, the lesson transmitted to every other publisher is not that audiences reward artistic ambition. It is that audiences will ultimately accommodate the further erosion of ownership, the further segmentation of access, and the further professionalization of creative risk. so long as the brand in question is sufficiently powerful to override accumulated frustration. That is the ultimate danger of GTA 6 being too big to fail. The bar for the modern games industry is already in hell, and Grand Theft Auto 6 might teach them it was still too high.